Kofo stood at the rusty police station gate like a madman. His chest rose and fell as he tried to catch his breath, and the sweat pouring down his face made it hard to see clearly. The officer at the desk looked up from his half-empty bowl of Gary and raised one brow lazily. "Yes, what did you find for here this night?" "I need to see the DPO," Kofo stammered. "Please, it's urgent." "Very urgent," the officer scoffed. DPO no day attend to mad people by this kind hour. "Who you be?" Kofo stepped closer and whispered. "It's about Chef Kojo. The silver spoon. There are human heads in the freezer. Girls, dead girls. I saw them with my own eyes." The officer's expression changed slightly, but not in the way Kofo expected. He slowly stood up, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and walked out from behind the desk. "You say Wetton?" "I said Chef Kojo is hiding human heads in the kitchen. There are bodies. People who work there. Girls that are missing. I saw their heads. On trays." The officer stepped closer, narrowed his eyes, and asked, "You know said this accusation where you dey make fit land you for prison?" "You sabi who Chef Kojo be?" "I don't care who he is. He's killing people," Kofo said, his voice rising. The officer held up a hand. "Oh, you calm down. Wait here." He disappeared inside the building, leaving Kofo outside, heart pounding. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Kofo began to pace. Every second felt like a rope tightening around his chest. Finally, the officer returned with the others. "You're under arrest for spreading false information, trespassing, and attempting to defame a respected citizen," one of them announced. Kofo's jaw dropped. "What?" "I'm telling the truth. I'm trying to save lives. No, so all these small boys they behave," the first officer muttered. "You ego they look for attention." Before Kofo could protest, they seized him, dragged him into the station, and threw him into a dusty, mosquito-infested cell. The metal door slammed shut with a final clang, and that was when Kofo understood the truth. Chef Kojo was untouchable. The next morning, the officers ignored him. No one brought food. No one asked him questions. Instead, by midday, he heard laughter from outside the cell. 2 men in suits walked past. One held a paper bag bearing the Silver Spoon logo. "Now this pounded yam and native soup sweet dye yesterday," one officer said. "ABG greet Chef Kojo for me." Kofo pressed his head against the iron bars, feeling like he was choking. They were all eating the food, the cursed food, the food spiced with horror. Hours passed. Finally, when the sun began to set, someone came to his cell. Not an officer, Amaka. She was dressed in a long black hoodie, her eyes hidden behind dark glasses. She said nothing for a moment, then crouched beside the bars. "I warned you," she said quietly. "They arrested me. They're protecting him," Kofo whispered, his voice hoarse. "I know." "Why are you here?" Amaka reached into her bag and pulled out a small flash drive. She slipped it under the cell door. "I saw you take pictures. I deleted them from the kitchen CCTV. I copied what I could. It's not much, but it's something." Kofo's heart skipped. "You believe me?" "I believed you from the beginning," she said. "But we can't go through the police. Chef Kojo's food feeds governors, ministers, even some police commissioners. That's why they look away." Kofo swallowed hard. "Then what can we do?" Amaka leaned closer, her face tense. "We don't go after Kojo. We go after his customers, the ones with power. We expose them. If we take down his protection, we can take down him." Kofo nodded slowly. "Where do we start?" She looked around, then whispered, "There's someone in Ojodu, a retired investigative journalist. He's been digging into missing persons cases for years. I'll get you out tonight. But after that, we disappear for a while." Kofo nodded. "Whatever it takes." That night, Amaka returned with a stolen set of keys. Kofo slipped out while the officer on duty snored with his feet on the table. They climbed over the back fence and vanished into the darkness like shadows. As they disappeared into the crowded streets of Lagos, Kofo looked back once toward the direction of the Silver Spoon. He whispered to himself, "I'm coming back for you, Kojo, but not alone." The gate creaked like a groaning spirit as Amaka pushed it open. The compound smelled of dust, old paper, and rain-soaked cement. A faded curtain hung over the door instead of a proper screen. She knocked 3 times. No answer. Kofo shifted nervously behind her. His body ached from the night spent inside the cell, and every sound in the quiet neighborhood made him jump. Amaka knocked again, this time harder. The curtain finally shifted. A hand pulled it aside, revealing a face both tired and watchful. Grey beard, deep wrinkles, sharp eyes that didn't blink easily. He didn't greet them. He just looked at Amaka, then at Kofo, and stepped aside. They entered. The room was dimly lit. The walls were covered in stacks of files and photographs, clippings, Maps, names written in red marker. Some faces were crossed out. Others were circled. Kofo paused. He saw a familiar face. Nika, he whispered. She was a cleaner. At the Silver Spoon. She vanished last year. The old man didn't respond. He sat down slowly, picked up a pipe, lit it, and inhaled. Amaka broke the silence. He saw the freezer. That got a reaction. The man turned his full gaze to Kofo. You saw the heads? He asked. Kofo nodded. How many? 6. All female. One had her eyes still open, like she was trying to say something. The old man looked away, as if confirming something to himself. It's not just Kojo, he said after a long pause. It's older than him, older than that restaurant. Kojo is just the current host. Host? Kofo asked. The man didn't answer directly. Instead, he reached into a drawer and pulled out a photo. Kofo leaned closer. It was a black and white picture of a man very tall, very lean, wearing a chef's hat. The resemblance to Kojo was shocking. That's not him, Kofo asked. No, that photo was taken in 1978. Amaka blinked. Then who? The man tapped the picture. This was the original owner of the Silver Spoon. His name was Kojo Metsu. The current Kojo is too young to have been around then, but everything about him matches the pasture. The tone of voice, the cooking style, everything. You think it's the same man? Kofo asked. I think it's something that passes through men, like a spirit, a curse, or worse. Amaka stiffened. The man stood and walked to a large shelf. He pulled down a leather-bound journal and laid it on the table. I've been following the disappearances since 1982, all linked to restaurants, all involving chefs, all with the same pattern, young girls, always staff, always vanishing quietly, and always a Chef Kojo at the center. Kofo's skin crawled. But why? What does he want? He asked. The man opened a page in the journal. There was a symbol drawn there, something that looked like a flame surrounded by knives. This is a West African sigil. It's rarely spoken of. The cult of Ulil. They believed that the highest offering to their deity was the flesh of the silent ones. Young women without family, without voice. Girls no one would look for. Kofo's head spun. And the food? Yes, the man said grimly. That's the offering. The diners are unaware, but they become part of the sacrifice. Their power grows. Their influence expands. That's why so many powerful people protect him. They've tasted what no man should ever taste. Amaka sank into a chair, her arms crossed tight over her chest. So how do we stop him? The man looked at her. You don't stop a spirit like Kojo with noise. You don't fight him in court or on the streets. You expose him under his own light. You make the shadows chase him. And for that, he turned to Kofo. You need to go back. Kofo froze. Go back? To the Silver Spoon? Yes, he doesn't suspect you survived. That's your only power. Kofo shook his head. He tried to kill me. That means he'll let his guard down next time. That's when you look deeper. That's when you bring proof. Amaka stood. We'll do it together. The man closed the journal slowly. Be careful. The closer you get to Kojo, the more you'll hear them. The voices. The ones who never got to scream. Outside, the rain began to fall. In the heart of Ikoyi, where wealth masked wickedness, the kitchen of the Silver Spoon pulsed with quiet intensity. Every corner gleamed. Every knife was sharpened. Every soul working there knew one thing: Chef Kojo was not a man to question. But tonight, something was different. He stood in the cold room, wearing his pristine white apron. The tray lay before him. A girl's head, dark-skinned, eyes closed, braided hair wet with cold mist, her mouth slightly open, like she had died mid-scream. He wiped her forehead gently, like a father tucking a child in for the night. He whispered, Ulil accepts. Then he closed the silver tray slowly. Behind him, a low humming sound began, a deep, eerie vibration from the old freezer door. Kojo didn't flinch. Instead, he smiled. That sound was the confirmation. The offering had been received. He left the cold room and returned to the main kitchen, where steam hissed and knives danced on chopping boards. His sous chef, Chuka, approached him nervously. Sir, a customer. The one from Lagos State Council. Says he wants a special. The flame-cut platter. Kojo paused, then nodded slowly. Prepare it, but tell him it'll be his last one. No more after tonight. Chuka bowed slightly, trying not to tremble. In the far corner of the kitchen, hidden in the shadow, a man in a dark suit watched Kojo silently. No one acknowledged him. No one dared. He wasn't a chef. He wasn't a customer. He was the handler, one of the men who ensured that the dark secret of the Silver Spoon never leaked. An agent of those in power who had tasted too much to let the truth come out. He approached Kojo later in the wine cellar. You've gotten sloppy, the man said coldly. Kojo poured himself a glass of blood-red wine and took a long sip before replying. One boy. One stupid boy snuck in. He saw nothing. You killed him. I buried him. You should burned him. Kojo's smile didn't reach his eyes. If I burned everyone, I'd run out of bones for the stew. The man didn't laugh. This is your last season. After this, Yulio chooses another. You must complete the final offering. Kojo tilted his head. Already chosen. The handler narrowed his eyes. Who? Kojo walked to the corner of the cellar, opened a drawer, and took out a photograph. He handed it to the man. The man stared at it. It was Amaka. She's loud. Too loud, the man said. That's what makes the silence more satisfying. The man handed it back. Make sure you do it clean. If you fail, you're not the only one who burns. Kojo watched him leave. Then, for the first time in years, Kojo's hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from anticipation. The final feast was coming, and the girl who threatened his secrets would soon be lying on a tray served cold. In silence, Kofo stood on the cracked veranda of his aunt's old house in Bariga, eyes fixed on the road. The sun had long dipped behind the rusty rooftops, but his mind was burning. Amaka, curled up on a wooden bench beside him, broke the silence. That man you described, the one with the scar and missing fingers, he matches the report of a missing man from 2019. He was a journalist investigating high-profile ritual networks. Kofo nodded, clutching a worn-out diary in his hand. The same one he'd found wedged under the freezer. Back at the Silver Spoon, it belonged to someone named Ibuka, a former apprentice. Someone who also saw too much. The first page was smudged with oil, but the words were clear. If anyone finds this, know that the food at the Silver Spoon tastes like heaven because it comes from hell. A chill ran down Kofo's spine. That man was onto something, Amaka said, sitting up. These disappearances, they all link to this restaurant. High-profile guests vanish. Interns disappear. Nobody talks. And those who do go missing. Kofo flipped another page. Drawings, ritual symbols, a sketch of a head on a silver tray. Amaka gasped. That's what you saw. Kofo nodded, jaw tight. They didn't sleep the night. Instead, they made a plan to visit Chief Beyo, a former security consultant who once worked with the Lagos Special Crimes Unit. He was old now, forgotten by society, but known for keeping his ears close to the ground. The next morning, they boarded a rickety bus to an AFA, where Beyo lived in a fenced-off compound surrounded by broken cars and overgrown grass. He didn't let them in immediately. Only after Kofo mentioned Kojo's name did he open the gate. Inside, Beyo stared at them for a long time before speaking. Chef Kojo, I warned them, but they laughed, called me paranoid. He chuckled dryly. But when the daughter of the Commissioner of Agriculture vanished after her birthday dinner at that cursed place, I knew. You knew what? Amaka asked softly. That it wasn't just cooking. It was serving. The kind that needed human ingredients. Kofo felt his stomach churn. I traced the connections, Beyo continued. He's protected. Men in uniform eat from that kitchen. Lawmakers' influences. They've tasted that darkness and can't turn back. You think they'll let you expose him? We have to try, Kofo said. We have proof. Beyo leaned forward. Then don't go to the police. Go to the press, but not the local ones. They're bought. Then who? Amaka asked. There's a woman, Adiora Onene, investigative reporter, lives in Abuja now. She once exposed a trafficking ring in Kano. She'll listen. But you'll have to be careful. Phones can be traced. Eyes are everywhere. Kofo nodded. We'll find her. But as they left Beyo's house, none of them noticed the black SUV parked 3 houses down. Inside, a man in a black cap dialed a number. Sir, they've found the diary. On the other end, Kojo replied calmly. Burn Beyo's house. Make it look like accident. The man hesitated. What about the boy? Kojo's voice turned sharp. Bring me his head, but make sure it's washed first. I don't serve dirt. The wind that blew over Oak Afa that evening was different dry, whispering, like it carried secrets too heavy for the trees. Kofo and Amaka sat in silence inside a small roadside eatery, far from the noise of Lagos Island. They hadn't spoken much since their visit. To Chief Bejo, his warning still echoed in Kofo's head. Kojo doesn't cook food. He cooks silence. Just then, Kofo's phone vibrated. It was a private number. Hello? The voice on the other end was breathless. Please, I saw your number in Chief Beyo's file. His house. It was burned down this afternoon. The fire service came too late. He didn't survive. Kofo's chest caved in. What? There were 2 men. They poured fuel. Left in a black SUV. I picked something they dropped. A card with a silver spoon on it. Amaka grabbed the phone. Did anyone else see them? No, Ma. Only me. They moved fast, like they've done this before. Kofo sat back, his hands trembling. They know, he whispered. They know we've started uncovering them. Amaka's eyes welled with tears, not just from fear but fury. They silenced him, just like the others. Suddenly, the truth felt too big to hold. Kofo realized this wasn't about one chef. It was an entire network. Years of disappearances, bodies erased, lives turned into ingredients, and no one had ever noticed. Because the food was too good, the plates too perfect, the chef too charming. Kofo turned to Amaka. We can't go back. She nodded slowly. We finished this from the shadows. That night, they vanished. No trace, no social media, just a single message. Look into the silver spoon. Cross-check the missing persons database. Ask for files. Hidden after 2015. Start from Lagos. A friend. The message was sent to a seasoned investigative journalist in Abuja, Adaora Onani, a woman who didn't scare easily. Within minutes, the message was received. Within hours, the journalist was already making phone calls. But Kofo and Amaka never heard back. 3 days later, the silver spoon reopened. The fire at Chief Bayo's compound made the headlines briefly, reported as a generator explosion. The man was old and living alone, they said. No one looked at Ipa. The neighbors moved on. Inside the restaurant, nothing had changed. Chandeliers glowed. Laughter rang out. The plates were still perfect. The scent of slow roasted meat filled the air. Chef Kojo stood at the pass, clean and composed in his white coat. His smile returned. He worked like nothing had happened, like silence was part of the menu. Only one thing had changed. A new apprentice had been hired. Her name was BC, 19, from Elorin. Quiet but observant. On her third night in the kitchen, she followed the wrong corridor, looking for the dry store, and stumbled on a metallic door with blood-red scratches near the handle. It was slightly ajar. She peeked in. Her scream nearly shattered the glass fridge doors. Inside the cold room, sitting on a tray, a human head, dark-skinned, a girl, braided hair, lips slightly parted, as though whispering something from the other side. Before BC could run, the lights went out. And then, Chef Kojo's voice, calm, gentle, so close behind her it felt like breath. Curiosity, he said, is the most dangerous spice. 1 week later, Adaora Onani received a brown envelope on her office desk. No sender. Inside were 3 items. A reservation list from the Silver Spoon with crossed-out names. A photograph of Kofo and Amaka taken at night from a distance. A handwritten note that read, "They tried, but the recipe was too old and too protected.